Hello and welcome to the Connected Community Podcast. Today my guest is Jasper Moontree, who I've known for many years, and she is a licensed massage therapist, a certified yoga teacher, an ecotherapy guide, a Reiki practitioner, and so much more. Today we talk about an earth church, which was Jasper's creation with her friend. It's been going on for many years, and we talk about the creation of this earth church and its evolution, and it doesn't have a religious component. We talk about how it was formed. So a lot of people coming together in nature outside once a month, no matter what the weather is on that day, and really connecting with the nature, with each other, with the land, with the trees, with the earth, with the bugs, with the animals. And then there's that tribal component where we also go inside and reflect deeply. So there's process of meditation and self-reflection. And then there's that community and tribal element. And I love this because I find it so inspiring. We can create anything that we wish. It doesn't have to be out there in the world. We can create something new, or we can model something and then take our own twist and create something out of that. So I love this. And I love that she found a calling, went for it, created something, and how it has morphed and evolved over all of these years into something absolutely magical and beautiful. I hope that you'll find this episode inspiring. I love Jasper, and I found this episode so much fun. Please, if you're enjoying these podcasts, take a moment to give us a like, a share, and a subscribe. And thank you so much for being here today. Enjoy. Hello, and welcome to the Connected Community Podcast, a place to explore possibility through mindfulness, movement, and self-discovery. Our intention is to deliver insight and inspiration while fostering conversations that are genuine, unfiltered, and deeply human. We hope you will enjoy today's episode. Hey, Jasper. Welcome to the Connected Community Podcast.
Thank you.
I'm so excited to be chatting with you.
Me too.
I was saying before we got online that I don't have so many guests that I know so well. And so I know we've known each other for a long time. So that makes this extra special and exciting for me. And you have your hand in so many like amazing things. You're a massage therapist. And I was looking at all the different types of massage that you do. Deep tissue, neuromuscular, hot stone. And I even had to look one up, which is what's the one where you walk on people with your feet?
Yes.
Ashiatsu?
Ashiatsu. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And Thai yoga, and you're a Reiki practitioner.
Yes.
And you're a yoga teacher and meditation. And so vast.
Yes.
I love it.
I mean, I think once you're in the healing arts world, there's so many fun paths you can go down. And so I've trained in a lot of different things. I don't always practice all of those things. But I definitely every day I'm doing body work, Thai yoga massage, and teaching private yoga and also some sound healing. So that's my daily service to the world.
I love that. And I think I heard that you weave in music and instruments and singing and chanting and meditation. You weave that all into your yoga classes.
I do. I've been playing sound bowls since I got into the field in 2000s, but now I've kind of moved into. I have tons of sound bowls, but I've moved into flutes. I really have resonated with like hand carved Native American based type flutes. So that's my love right now. And drums. I love drums too.
I just got a drum and I'm obsessed, and it is like transformed my life. Yeah. And you know, it's funny is just a couple of days ago, I went to my first sound bath, sound healing. And it's one of those moments I'll never forget for the rest of my life. There was somebody, it was out in the middle of the woods in Colorado, and the weather was perfect. And it was among these aspen trees. And there was one person that had 6 of those crystal sound bowls on one side and then 6 on the other. And I was laying in between.
Oh, wow.
And the leaves, the aspen leaves, like they make the most beautiful sound. The wind was blowing and there was like hummingbirds and birds chirping. But I felt the sound moving through my body as if I had no body.
Oh my gosh. Pure magic. That sounds so wonderful.
It was incredible. I was like, this is one of those moments that I'm never going to forget. It was so healing. And I just got off an airplane that morning and my body was super tense, and you don't realize how tense your body is sometimes until you relax it. And within 5 minutes of this sound healing, my body just melted down,
Mm.
and I was floored at the amount of tension I had been holding, and I didn't even know it.
Oh my goodness. Like being on the earth too while you were
Yeah.
doing that rather than inside of studio.
Yes.
Oh, you got all of the
Yes.
overlapping medicine from that. That's beautiful.
Yes. I love our topic today. I mean, this is like another one of those many things that you're into, and you created an Earth Church. And I've been following you on Facebook and watching your journey. And I feel like every year I'm just seeing you like bloom more and more and more. And like now you're this like beautiful, massive, like open lotus flower. And this Earth Church is so fascinating to me. So how did you create this? What is an Earth Church?
Mm. Well, I'll start by saying I have no ownership over that name at all. Like that's not something that I trained in. I'm not affiliated with any church. The words just kind of dropped in after I had spent some time in Costa Rica, really immersing with the earth. And I'd had some pretty big shifts. And so when I came home, the thing I really knew was that I had to be in nature, like way more than I had been previously. And I also knew that I needed to be in nature with other people. Those were the two things I was sure of. And then those words dropped in just out of nowhere, Earth Church. And sometimes that happens, you can have something drop in and you're not exactly sure what it is yet, but you feel a deep calling to do it. And that's what happened. I knew I had to do it, but I wasn't exactly sure what it was. And so it has evolved. And that was in 2018. And it has evolved every year by the people who show up. It's a co-created experience by whoever happens to come that day. And with the land that we're gathering on.
So let's talk about the word church, because that has a big meaning for a lot of people. And some have a positive connotation with it and some have a really negative connotation. So let's talk about that in the Earth Church.
Okay. Well, yeah, when it dropped in, I felt immediately hesitant to call it church, because number one, I'm not a preacher, a pastor, a priest. I'm nothing, a priestess at the time. Now I've been doing priestess training, but at the time I had nothing like that under my belt. And so I really kind of questioned it for a while if I was actually going to call it that. But what came to me was, I'm not a specifically religious person at all, but there's a verse, I think, in the Bible that says when two or more are gathered in my name. And some of the wisdom that was coming through to me during that time period is that two or more does not point just to humans. The trees that we live with, the water sources that we have, the creeks and the rivers, the birds, everything that is with us in our environment is one, And so it kind of occurred to me that I could go into the forest, and there were many times where I would find a stand of trees. You're walking through and just suddenly you feel like you've arrived somewhere. Like the way they're arranged, the way that it has its own special magical feeling in this area. And that would be a place I would sit and meditate. And I started to feel the trees as if they were cathedral walls, and everything that happened in those spaces with me and the environment, the spirit of the earth, it felt closer to any church experience than I'd ever had. And what I mean by that is it connected me to source, and everyone has a different name for that. And I don't subscribe to any specific language around it. I think we can all choose what works for us and what feels the most resonant. So I call it the source. In those places, I could hear the messages of the divine, So when I say Earth Church, I'm speaking not to the people as much as I am to the environment. Nature becomes the church. It's the container for us to connect with source, and we step into it.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's undeniable that when we get into nature, things shift and evolve, right? We shed these
Yes.
like layers of heaviness off of our bodies. And there's so much research done on earthing or grounding, like taking our
Mhm.
shoes off and walking on dirt and on the earth, and how our body holds some of this like electricity that we can like discharge into the earth, and how important it is. And I feel like we've gotten so disconnected as a society in general from nature
Yes.
that we go into it and it's like moments in nature, where we're spending like 99% of our time indoors
Right.
and on concrete. And then we have these moments in nature.
Mhm.
It seems like you're shifting your percentages.
Exactly. Absolutely. And that's kind of after I came back from Costa Rica and I had this beautiful shift and I knew this is what I needed to do. I went down a full rabbit hole of studying ecotherapy, studying the work of Joanna Macy, who is a huge environmental activist. She's just a gift to us, gift to the planet. And I started really finding the
Mm-hmm.
others. And people have been talking about this since the beginning of time. Indigenous wisdom is based in this. Everything that we live here with has a spirit of its own, and that we are very interconnected as well as interdependent, meaning we all are a part of the ecosystem and everything has a purpose, And so, um, after studying some of those things and realizing that this is ancient wisdom, this isn't something new,
Mm-hmm.
that when we spend time with the earth, our consciousness shifts, our nervous system shifts, and
Yeah.
we are able to open up more and hear the wisdom that's coming through to us at all times.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, this struck me because, as you know, I just went to Africa, and I was in Botswana, and 70% of their land is protected. They really feel a deep connection to the animals and to the earth and nature. And what I found when some of those people were like doing their native singing and dancing, you could just feel it, the energy and the connection between them, that tribal connection, their energy and connection to the earth. And they just in general had so much less and seemed so much happier and
Exactly.
relaxed and calm. Like there's this deep connection and you can feel it in those people, and they're
Yes,
different.
they are, and that's something that I think here in the West, the way that our society has grown, and we are so disconnected from nature, that seems just pure magic. When you hear of these things, that seems like from another time, from a fairy tale,
Mm-hmm.
that doesn't actually exist. So yeah, because of the way that we are conditioned here in the West, and we do live indoors, like you said, we spend 90% of our time indoors now. And that's gotten worse just in the last 20 or 30 years. I mean, we've had a huge shift away from nature. And so when people hear about this, when you hear about cultures that have way less than us, and yet they're much more happy and they're much more connected to the earth, seems like a fairy tale. It doesn't seem real, And the reason it doesn't seem real is because we have not had that experience in our lifetime. But
Mm-hmm.
it's actually a very human experience. Right now I'm studying with the Mayan Wisdom Project, so I get to learn from these Mayan elders, and it's been just
Mm-hmm.
mind blowing because it's so simple. Like they spend 5 to 10 hours every 20 days. There's a specific day for going in and giving payment back to the earth and showing
Mm-hmm.
gratitude. And they'll spend just these long periods of time in these gratitudes for all of the mountains that live around them, all of the water sources, all of the animals. They name them one by one. And there is something that happens in your consciousness. It shifts your consciousness and your heart space when you actually spend that kind of time in gratitude for our home. And it's built into our DNA. And I think that once you've had an experience like that, it changes you forever. And then that there's a doorway there. And
Mm-hmm.
for Earth Church, like I read that it takes 2 hours to shift your nervous system when you're in nature. And they've studied that. And I that kind of blew my mind because people run in the park. Like they get up every day and they say, oh, I'm outside. I'm going for a run. Or
Yeah.
even hiking. They hike to a destination, and the whole time you're in your mind, I'm getting to this destination. But to just stop and just be in a place and really like allow yourself to expand into that place. See the things that are there, down to the tiniest spider and its web, to the sun, just, the way it streams through the trees. It's a form of meditation and presence that we think is so far beyond us now because of the way we've built our world, but it's right outside our door. And when you do it, you feel it. You feel it. So at Earth Church, we're there for 2 hours and we're outside, whether it's raining, it's cold, or it's hot. We adapt. We let ourselves adapt for that 2 hours. And I can't even tell you, like, when I leave, I feel high. This is a completely sober event.
Yeah.
But we all are just high off life, just being, just kind of remembering what it means to actually be human in reference to our place amongst the trees and the creek and the animals that live there.
How do you lead that space?
Well, it's evolved over the years. In the beginning, I think I was leading a little bit more, and I invited my friend Shannon Andrew Skipper in. She's a beautiful musician. She plays harmonium, singing bowls. She sings. She's very comfortable dancing. So in the beginning, we were doing more of the leading, and I was teaching a lot of ecotherapy practices. But the main thing is, and this has carried over into now, is that when we gather in the circle at the very beginning, there's a time period where we are actually coming into presence. So it's not a bunch of talking where we're quiet. We're bringing ourselves fully into the environment and speaking our gratitudes. And we do this thing where we step over a threshold. So I know a lot of people do this in their rituals, but you step over this threshold. And once we're all inside the space, we call it the sacred soup. That just came up. So once we've all stepped in, you can feel the shift. It's like we're taking off the labels that have disconnected us from each other, and we're stepping in, and now we're just children of the earth. We're humble. We're here and we're ready to play. We're ready to listen. We're ready to share. And so that's always the same. But what's changed is that now these people, these beautiful community members that we've spent all this time with, they're now stepping forward and saying, I have something. I have something to share. So it's no longer just being led by one. It's a circle, and everybody has an equal opportunity to share their gifts.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I love this. I've been doing this shamanic journey without plant medicine through drumming. And I kept getting this calling about, from a Native American woman about having a fire dance. And so, in 2 days, I've organized it. I'm finally having this fire dance, and there's going to be, 15 women spending the night in the woods, and we're doing this fire dance, and we're burning and releasing things that don't belong to us. And I want us to get barefoot and feel the earth and dance and like move our bodies as if no one's watching.
Yes. Yes.
And just really like feel that connection to the earth, connection to our bodies, connection to the fire. It's on a new moon. It's like releasing things that don't serve us.
I wish I could be there.
I know. I wish you could. But it was the same thing. It's like feeling this calling to do this. And I knew the right people would come, and I'm surprised, like 15 women, we're all going to be sleeping out in the woods together.
Oh my gosh.
It's going to be so magical. And it's about that community, and it's about that connection, and it's about that releasing and letting go. And I love that idea of the threshold, right? It's almost like dropping your ego suit at the door and like walking in.
Yes, absolutely. And I love hearing that you are following those callings, because that's what I've noticed more and more, that something is happening at this time. Like there is a lot of suffering. I mean, we cannot look past it. It is in our face every single day. And if you're a sensitive person at all, if it can feel like despair. And I've been there many times. I go through that cycle all the time. But at the same time that all of these things are breaking down, these systems are breaking down, and all of the underbelly of our culture is coming up to the surface, there's this other thing happening too. And people are being called back to the earth. And when you follow it, when you follow that calling, magical things occur. Magical things like you don't feel quite so alone anymore. You know that even if the shit goes down, you are going to have, you know, the people with you that light you up, that you can trust, that you can lean into, that you can speak your truth to. I mean, I think as humans, we've always needed that. That's how we thrive. And it's part of why we're not well now, you know, and so many people are coming to that calling. They're being called to the fire, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I do think it all goes back to nature.
Yes.
And to like tapping into our own wisdom and finding the space to be able to do that.
Yes.
This past weekend, our community had some people going for Vision Quest. And Vision Quest was them going in the woods for 3 nights and 3 full days with no food and just water and a little shelter, a tarp. And we gathered and held space for them and then watched them come off of the mountain. And the person that left was not the same person that came back. I can see that the shifts and the insights that came to them during that vision quest are not temporary. They're not fleeting. They're permanent. And that I think that was the main thing, was this connection with divine and with themselves, and like being able to sit basically with their own soul.
Yes.
And it was so beautiful being able to witness them coming off of this space. And it was just nature, right?
Right.
It's powerful.
It's very powerful. And there's a reason why a lot of our greatest prophets that have spoken about love and the interconnection of all beings, and a lot of them, part of their story is that they went into the woods or up on the mountaintop and were there for extended periods of time. Like, you know, we as humans, there is something in us that is unlocked by being very close to the earth. And that just makes sense because we eat food that grows from the earth. We drink water that grows from the earth. And I think, you know, just this modern day with the grocery store being right down the street and bottled water, like we've lost that sense of what the connection really is between us. And when you wake up to that, there is all of this like desperation to find a good partner, be in love, and have, you know, a meaningful job, and all of this desperation to like prove ourselves. It starts to just release, because out there, when you are, when you're just in the company of trees and water and rocks, there's nothing for you to prove. There's no one for you to prove it to, not even yourself. You know, at some point, even your own mind starts to give into it and says, okay, there's nothing but stillness here. So I'll be still. Yeah. It's an amazing, miraculous process to get closer to the earth and to realize that we were always meant to be. Always.
How many years have you been doing this Earth Church?
Well, we started in the fall of 2018.
Oh, wow.
So at first I was doing it around different parks in Birmingham, just finding places that would be comfortable to call people. But we found a park that just invited us in. The trees there's a creek that runs through it. There's some already boulders in a circle formation.
Oh, wow.
And it just invited us in, and it's become our home. And the really beautiful thing about this is that when you return to the same place, you know, every month, we do all of these practices. Basically, a big part of it is just to walk and meditate with the earth. And then we come back and share. But when you've seen it through spring, summer, fall, and winter, when you repeatedly watch the cycles of the earth happening around you, it does just naturally start to align you with those transitions in nature. And so I feel like there's been something really beautiful happening for all of us who have made this a devotion to spend more time with nature. And is that we are all starting to really align with our highest calling. And a lot of times that is different than what you thought it was going to be. It's not always making lots of money and starting something new and working really hard. And, oftentimes it ends up being like, I want to make bread for my family. It's like, I want to stop working so hard and try to find smarter ways to survive the world so that I can actually spend more time listening to the birds. Like, it's just interesting how it realigns you with what's important.
Yeah. And sometimes your purpose is just your presence.
Exactly.
Yes.
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 It boils down to that. You hit that. That's the nugget. It all boils down to presence.
Right.
Yeah.
And we're so far removed from that concept right now. I mean, so many people. Yeah.
There's a lot to distract us. There is a lot of distraction.
I'm curious what happened in Costa Rica that shifted your perspective on everything.
So what happened in Costa Rica is very linked to what happened to me as a child. When I was very young, up until probably 11 years old, I spent a lot of time in the woods. That was something my mother did not care about. She was scared of people. Like her fears were like people, but woods, she let me go. It was the 80s, and I explored, and I spent so much time singing about my environment, building little homes out of the woods. And it was the place that I felt the most safe and the most me. I had some, just like a lot of us, I had some grief and sadness in my family life that where the adults, there wasn't a whole lot of joy there. And so I would leave the adults to go be me in the woods. And it became just a refuge for me. And then, of course, like everybody, I grew up and I started diving into all of the relational stuff that you get into. And I kind of lost that little girl that really relied on the great mother for her nurturing. And so, it was actually 2018. I went to Costa Rica to lead a retreat with a friend, and we were outside the whole time, and we were doing a lot of beautiful rituals. And I'd been going through a divorce. And so I was in a deep grieving time where my life seemed like I was at this crossroads and I had no idea where I was going now. And so that week, being outside the whole week, being barefoot, eating fresh foods, having the sunshine on me, like rain, it rains there every day during that season. So it rained and then it would dry. It was just so beautiful. And close to the end of the week, I went for a walk by myself. And the best I can explain to you is that I remembered her. I stepped back into her. It wasn't that I was thinking about the past. It wasn't a past memory. Oh, when I was a kid, I used to do this or that. It wasn't that. It was like I merged with her. I became her again. She was me. And I suddenly remembered, like in every cell of my being, I remembered what the earth was. And I had a lot of messages coming through at that time, and I was just kind of journaling them and channeling that out. And it all had to do with humans being disconnected from Gaia and saying, just come to me, and I will heal you. So when I got back from that experience, that's when Earth Church dropped in, and I knew I had to do it. And
Beautiful.
I walk hand in hand with her now. She's never far now.
I love that. Yeah, I had a similar childhood where I was a tomboy and I was out in the woods all the time, and we had a creek behind our house, and like my mom would be dragging me in. And I remember making, like, my friends would come over and we'd get sticks and water and berries and we'd mix up a witch's brew. And, and I was like always barefoot, and I drank the water and got worms and all. And I see my kid now, and my kid has ADHD. I've got some ADHD. As soon as I get outside doing yard work, my husband will say, like, he'll be dragging me into the house.
Yes.
Like I just get lost in yard work and I just get lost in nature in that way. And my kid, I can see that with him too. We get him out in the yard and it's like hours and hours and hours and we don't want to come inside and we just get lost in it. And it's funny because recently him and I went for a walk in a green space. And my goal is like, I want to go for a walk. I want to get some exercise. Right.
Right.
And he's stopping every minute and he's like slow and he's picking flowers and he's like looking at the bees and the bugs. And it took me a minute and I was thinking like, wow, how beautiful, because I'm missing all of this because I'm so focused on like getting there and getting some exercise.
Exactly.
And I'm getting annoyed with him because he's stopping every 10 seconds. But like the beauty in that, and he's 10, he's at that age where his eyes are big and everything's like amazing. And this is how I want him to grow up, so much so that I think when he gets into middle school, we're going to pull him out. I want him to like move to the mountains. I want him to live in nature. I want him to grow up in nature. And I feel like he's getting to that age where you and I got to, probably around teenage years, 12, 13, 14, where you start to feel that disconnection from nature and you start to get involved into what other people think.
Right.
Yeah. I wonder, do you have any kids that come into the Earth Church?
Yeah, we do. We do. Sometimes they just run off and play though, and they'll just come over and, run through the circle every now and then. And it's been really wonderful to be in a space that's intergenerational, different types of people, children, animals. Some people bring their dogs. And it feels really old.
Yeah.
Like something we've forgotten, to raise our children together like that. And the thing I always think about is, how would I be different if when I was young like that, if I saw adults on a regular basis, like playing together, sharing their wisdom with one another, holding really deep, intentional space for each other. If I saw adults holding space for when someone cries and singing songs about the earth together, like how would that have changed the way that I viewed the world, you know? And the other thing, I thought it was interesting, you brought up ADHD. I also have that. And, when you have a neurodivergent mind, sitting in a yoga studio, meditating, for years I thought, what is wrong with me? I just keep practicing this. I keep practicing this. As a child or an adult, if you have a neurodivergent mind, the forest is the place for you to meditate. As you don't have to sit still. You don't have to just focus on one thing, but everything you focus on has presence and life in it. It draws you in such a way that you find yourself, even with a neurodivergent mind that tends to bump all around the place. Yeah. You find yourself coming into a real place of presence, so that's the other thing. I think that our children and who are now, we have a lot of ADHD now and autism and all kinds of things that have kind of changed our brain. And I think that the earth is just begging us to come back.
Well, and that's the thing is the school systems, they get a half an hour outside.
Right.
And then that's it. And then a lot of kids go from that to all these activities and then they're in the house and they're not getting barefoot. I grew up barefoot. I was always barefoot.
Me too.
And like the kids now, they're never barefoot. They're not running around outside. They're not getting any time outside at school.
Yeah.
And they're getting more and more disconnected. And so we have to be intentional about bringing that in. Otherwise it won't happen.
Right.
And then they won't appreciate it. I feel like if they can appreciate it from a young age, then hopefully when they go through the teenage years, there'll still be that appreciation.
Yes. And even if they lose it for a little while, they'll come back, because the foundation is what I feel is the most important. If you knew as a child that the earth offered you the ability to be curious and to feel supported and to be inspired, then you go through that hormonal period where now it's all about, your friends, and you get into your early 20s when you're still pretty self-absorbed. You're just trying to figure out what you're going to do with life. But it comes back. It comes back. And I just try to have faith in that for my own child, that, she'll come back.
Yeah, we go ever since Jack was 2. We've been going to this hot springs. It's kind of clothing optional. It's very small. It's amazing. And it's been one of the memories that I want to implant into his psyche. And so we go 2 to 3 times every single year. And now he's 10. So we've been going for 8 years and he loves it. And we haven't gotten to that awkward stage yet, which, then he might kind of pull away from that. But I know he's going to go back to that hot springs or that space because it's this magical thing that we intentionally brought into his life.
Yes.
And he gets there and he's free and he can do whatever he wants and he can get filthy and he can splash and he can make noise and he can run around and he can, play with dirt and sticks and there's bats there and there's snakes and there's all kinds of things and he's in bliss. And immediately, and I do think it definitely takes us. I always notice that first day, we're coming from the city, we go to the hot springs and we sit down and then it takes a couple hours.
It does.
Definitely takes a couple hours before our body settles into the space. I'd say probably more than 2 hours.
Yeah.
Because we're coming in so jacked up.
Right.
And then I can feel when we're driving back, I can feel so relaxed. And as we're driving back in the city, I can literally feel my body tensing up again.
Exactly.
It happens.
It does. I feel you on that. And yeah, you've probably heard of forest bathing, and that kind of started one of the original forms out in Japan, where they did some studies on people, because in Japan people were really crammed into the cities and they work a lot. And so to do this study, they took, some folks out to one of their protected forests and had them just do forest bathing practices for 3 days. And they monitored them.
Specifically, is that with clothes on in the sun?
Yeah, it is. Yeah. It's basically, it's meditation in the forest. Okay. It's not that you have to sit and chant anything. You don't have to sit and focus on anything. It's just, I'm here to be here. Mm-hmm. So you might walk, you might look around at things or have a seat on a bench and just take in nature. But you're being bathed by the energy of the forest. Yeah. And so they hooked them up to all these, nodes and computers and measured as they went in, their blood pressure and all of those markers about the nervous system, even brain stuff. They just measured everything they could measure and then measured it again 3 days later, excuse me. Mm-hmm. And what they found was that the changes were so remarkable in these people's nervous system, and they then followed them back into their work and continued to monitor them and found that just 3 days in nature, in that way, in that intentional way of soaking in the forest and being still and calm, that it lasted for 6 months.
Ooh.
They had higher productivity. They had a better mood. They enjoyed their jobs more. They were happier people, and so there's so much science coming up now to support what the ancients already knew. And that is that we have, of course, the physical body and we have our mental body, but we have an emotional and a spiritual body as well. And those 4 bodies work together. And when you're in nature, all of those 4 bodies are being affected. Even smelling what's in nature, touching things, when your child's walking around touching all the things.
Yeah.
This is increasing our microbiome. This is helping our gut actually work better. There's something in soil that has a natural antidepressant in it. And when your feet are touching it, it's actually, helping you ground your energy. So it makes perfect sense why we're all feeling really anxious and elevated all the time. And, we think we need to take medicine. I'm not against that at all. I'm not saying that I have to take medicine, but part of it is because we're not actually, getting the natural medicine that humans are supposed to have just by living close to the earth,
Yeah. Oh my gosh. It's amazing.
It really is.
Have you noticed a big transformation with the people in the Earth Church? Have you noticed a big shifts with them? Have they noticed that?
I have. I really have. I had one participant. She's a beautiful woman and it's been coming since the beginning. every gathering has a different theme, and the themes come through divine guidance. Once we have a theme, I put it out to the group and I say, if you have anything that you would like to offer, please step forward. And so a lot of what's been coming through lately is about how to communicate with trees.
Yeah.
And how to have a relationship with trees, you know. And so she's been coming and hearing me talk about this stuff for years. But this last gathering, she walked up to me afterwards and she was glowing. And she said, I just want you to know I get it now. She's like, I've been coming here for years and I've been absorbing everything, but she's like, I get it now. And she's like, I want to be with the trees as much as I possibly can. And I could see it in her eyes and I could feel it in her spirit that she was opening now to all of the support that she has around her every day. And that's really what I see the most is people, we go from being like, on a core level, lonely, not really sure if anybody gets us, always feeling like we have to kind of mask and put forward a certain image of ourselves to keep ourselves safe. And we come into the circle that way. And then the more we drop our mask and the more we come into our authenticity in that moment, whether it's like, I'm grieving today. I'm tired today. Or I'm joyful and I'm ready to dance today, whatever that is. The more we do that, the more people are uncovering like the truth about who they really are and what it is that makes them unique and beautiful. So, we have one mom who started basically a play school, an earth school for children under 4. And that's been since the gatherings started. We have another mom who started basically a business out of her backyard selling plants. So she's growing and propagating and selling plants to all of us now. There's another group 3 of them that started an ecstatic dance movement here in Birmingham because we dance together out there. And a lot of them are playing music out now. It's like we've given each other a safe place to step in and share our gifts. And then that carries out into the rest of the community and into the world.
I mean, that's amazing because I'm part of a women's circle too. And just a week ago, one of the women is trained in breathwork. And so she did a whole breathwork workshop and a fire burning ceremony for all the women in the community. And then the sound bath was one person. Then she invited everybody in the community. And now I'm doing the fire dance. And I feel like that's happening within our community where it's like, I've asked people, do you have ideas? Do you want to lead something? If you have an idea, then great, like lead it in the fire dance. And let everybody's gifts and talents come out and let everybody shine and all their offerings come forward.
Yes.
Because that's what it's about, is encouraging each other to be the best version of themselves.
Exactly. And so what you're speaking to is the same. It's the same. I'm calling it Earth Church. You have a women's circle. It's the same. It's humans coming together in this intentional way.
Yeah.
With the awareness that when we do this, we are no longer subscribing to you're my enemy because you have different political beliefs than me. You're my enemy because you have a different gender identity, sexual identity, different skin color. We're radically saying to each other, no, I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that. I am here as a child of the earth and I'm here to really connect while I'm here. We don't know how long we have. And so I feel like what you're speaking of is the same thing that I'm speaking of. You're calling it something different, but people are being called all around the planet to this right now. We're ready. We're ready to see each other, like really see each other. And it's important. It's a form of activism, like to put yourself in these environments and to authentically step forward as who you are and to create safe and brave places for people to do that is a form of radical activism right now, especially here on our side of the globe. So it's beautiful. I love hearing that. I want to come visit you and come to some of your events.
Please do. Please do. I do like that perspective though. It's just about any gathering of people where we're lifting each other up.
Yes.
And encouraging people to be their authentic self. Yeah, I
Yes.
love that. Yeah.
Yes. I mean, that's what the forest is. When you go out there, when you look around and you see all the trees, you see that there are different species of trees in this circle, and some species are supporting other species. The mycelium beneath are carrying all the nutrients. There's dozens of types of birds, and they're all hanging out on the same tree. You know, you look in the creek bed, and there's so many different forms of life there. Humans are the only species that I can think of right now that we've tried to separate ourselves so drastically
Yes.
within.
Yes.
And
All these boxes we place ourselves in and put other people
exactly,
in. Yeah, totally.
exactly.
Right. Right. Yeah. I mean, it could be political, it could be religious, it could be like the color of our skin, it could be
Right.
whatever, but we do that. We're really skilled at that.
We're really
Yeah.
skilled at that. And I think that it's based in fear of not
Yeah.
enoughness.
Yeah.
And that's kind of a dysfunction that's happened in our species right now, and it's harming us. It's harming us to a huge degree. I mean, part of having these circles is being able to hold the flame. So this is the way I think about it. If you were born into a body and a mind that can imagine a future where
Yeah.
all of us can thrive, no
Mhm.
matter what color we are, or, you know, all those labels we just said, gender identity, political, where we want to live, how we want to live, who we want to
Yeah.
love. Like, if you can imagine that
Yeah.
and see it in your mind's eye, then you have a gift to offer the world right now. And
Yeah.
all of us who can do that, we need support. We do, because it's hard to be the flame over here all in the dark and not seeing one other flame around you.
Yes. Yes.
It feels terrifying. And
Yes.
so basically the flames are coming together. We are coming together in all these different ways around all these different communities and saying, I see you. I'm here too. And no matter what happens, I'm going to hold this hope. I'm going to hold this flame, and I'm going to do it right now by showing you who I am. I'm
Yeah.
going to show you who I am. I'm going to be courageous right now and
Yeah.
show you who I am. And then you are going to reciprocate by accepting and loving me. And we're going to let that multiply and just multiply and multiply and multiply, you know?
Yes. Radical acceptance.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Oh my gosh. Oh, Jasper, this is fun. This is so much fun. I feel like I could talk to you about a multitude of topics and we would have the best time. So yes, you need to come visit.
I would love to. I'm already thinking about it.
Yes.
That would be great.
How do people contact you, and what kind of offerings do you have if people want to connect with you?
Well, I am in Birmingham, Alabama, so
Yes.
I don't know where all your viewers
But
are.
you do some stuff online.
I do. I do some stuff online, and I shared a link tree with you that's linked out to a lot of the things I'm doing. And I do have a retreat coming up. It's in September, and it's in Pine Mountain, Georgia, at Callaway Gardens. And I've done a retreat there every year for about a decade now. The goal is earth-centered retreats. So we spend a lot of time outside. This year we're going to be gathering around fire. That's a very powerful mechanism for humans. We are going to be spending some time in water. I also am just offering some online, various online courses that you can connect with me over around yoga and bodywork. But mostly I'm kind of a local girl, I haven't really branched out too much. I kind of have this feeling that it's easy to get caught up in like producing and extending and reaching and growing. And in the capitalist society we live in, it does promote that, as a form of worthiness and that you've made it somewhere,
Yeah.
But the more time I've spent with Gaia, the more I've kind of shifted my rhythms into her rhythms.
Yeah.
The more I realize that my purpose and my calling is to do just what is authentically sustainable for me in the moment. And so sometimes that means nothing. I'm doing nothing at all.
Yeah.
But just, ebbing and flowing and waiting till the next gathering for the local community to show up. But if you'd like to hear from me more often, you could follow my social medias and see what I'm offering
and I'll
here
put
and
that
there.
in the show
Yeah,
notes.
thank you.
Well, thanks, Jasper. Thanks for your time and for this fun
Thank
conversation.
you.
And it was so good to see your face.
Oh, I'm so honored to have been asked, Nikki. I really appreciate it. And, you've always been a light for me and a guide, and I've been following you for years. So it means a lot to me that you invited me on, and I really appreciate you too.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for listening to the Connected Community Podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, please like, share, and subscribe. I can be found at www.nickyyoga.com, NICKYYYOGA.com. Until I see you again next week, I hope you have a beautiful day.